everyone, it's Alison Heikkila. Thanks so much for joining me. Today we're going to be working with some old dies and some new dies. Here on my desk you'll see the Rainbow Slice Tunnel from the new Tunnelscapes collections from Spellbinders and Vicky Papaioannou. And here what I'm showing you are the actual Rainbow Slice Tunnel pieces. In a moment I'm going to show you what the set looks like when it's in action. It also comes with all of those florals and foliage. So these are a couple of samples that are on the Spellbinders website of how you can use these dies, but we're going to do something a little bit different. And I promise in the future I will have more card examples using this Rainbow Slice Tunnel, more in the ways that it was intended, but I wanted to play with the pie today. This is the Perfect Pies die set. And again, it's an older set. I have the entire Perfect Pie collection, and it's been a little bit since I've used it. So I decided to use the Rainbow Slice Tunnel as kind of steam coming off of my freshly baked pie. I pulled out a few of the dies from the new collection, and I have a piece of cardstock that is 6 inches by 7 inches, and it's folded at the 3-inch mark. We're going to do a mini slimline card today, not something I usually do, and I figured, this might work out really well because of the way I'm going to have the steam coming up off the pie. It kind of lent itself to a mini slimline. I've got some Kraft colored cardstock, I've got some blue cardstock, and I'm just kind of getting my pieces together so that I can run them through my die cut machine. Here they are all cut out, and you could see that I grabbed some berries that are from the Rainbow Slice Tunnel set, just in case I want to use them. I thought that they would be really cute. In the pie collection, there are actually blueberry dies, or berry dies, I should say, but that collection is mostly unavailable now. If I can find the rest of the pieces, I'll have them linked below. But the die set that I am using today, which is again called Perfect Pies, is still available, and of course that will be linked below. I have some vintage photo distress ink, and I'm using it with a really tiny blending brush. This I just got from the dollar store, to add some kind of darkened areas so that it looks like it's freshly baked. Super quick to do. You don't need to spend a lot of time. If you don't want to hold those pieces, you can easily put them on a grip mat or a gel press plate, something like that. But I wasn't really doing a whole lot of blending, so just using it on my glass mat was just fine. And you can see how it looks kind of toasty now. So I'm moving those off to the side, and I kind of wanted to give my blueberry pie, like the inside of the pie, some texture and some shine. So I grabbed my VersaMark ink pad, and I'm pushing that blue piece, which is essentially the inside of the pie, into that. And now I'm going to take some chipped Sapphire Distress Embossing Glaze, and I'm dumping it all over the whole thing. I've got a piece of scrap paper there for the excess powder, and I'm just using my tweezers to pick it up because we want to coat that entire piece. So I'm just putting this all away, trying to not make a mess. And of course there is some spillage, but you can't see it on camera. You can only feel it on my fingers. And now I'm going to grab my heat tool and heat set this. But I'm not happy with it. It's way too dark. It looks almost black now, and I don't like it. If I was making a blackberry pie, then that would be fine. But I didn't really feel like shifting my focus like that. So I cut a new piece of that blue cardstock, and I decided to just go with that. It just wasn't working. I even tried off camera doing it with clear embossing powder, and it was still just too dark. It didn't have that blueberry look anymore. So the plain blue is just fine. We don't want to overthink these things sometimes, we just want to get something made. So I'm just going to adhere all of these pieces together. This is a really easy process. You don't need to spend a lot of time fiddling with anything. The pieces go together really easily. And I find that it's easier to put that kind of waffle effect on top first before you add the pie itself to the bottom of the pie, just because it's easier to line it up. You can see you just snug it right up against that, I guess, waffling, the grid that you make with the pie crust. And then you just add that other piece on top for the scalloping. I'm not so good at making pies. If they don't have like an upper crust, then I usually do okay, but I don't make a lot of pies, even though I do love pie very much. It's one of my favorite things to snack on, but I don't have it very often. Anyway, I digress. I cut some whipped cream. This is also from the Perfect Pies die set, and I stacked 2 of them together just for a little dimension, make it pop off the pie a little bit. And I used an ivory color. It's not pure white because, whipped cream isn't really bright white. How cute is that? But it's going to need something else. You'll see in a moment after I get this glued down that it needs a little bit more. That's a really teeny little dollop of whipped cream. And I decided to grab those berries that I cut out, plus one of the leaves that is from the Rainbow Slice Tunnel die set. And I'm going to cut that out of green cardstock. We're going to just adhere that to the back of the pie and have that leaf kind of sticking out from behind it, just like that. How cute is that? Love that. And now I'm going to add a couple of those berries to the top of the pie as well. Now, those berries are really meant to go on some sprigs that come in the Rainbow Slice Tunnel, but they work really well for these blueberries. And again, if you have the pie collection, you can always use the actual berries that come in that set. But I thought that this worked out really well. Look at that. So toasty, really adorable, loving that. I pulled out the Mod Retro paper stack from Die Cuts with a View. This is really old, you guys. And I chose the paper that looks like a tablecloth, and I cut it to fit the card front with 1/8 of an inch border around the edges. And now I decided that I needed something to ground that pie, like either a ground or a table or something. So I grabbed this ivory paper that has this really cool flecking on it, and I grabbed a pencil and I decided to go with like a curved sort of table. In the end, I really could have just gone with a straight line because the pie is so big you hardly even see that it's a curve. I cut that down to fit that tablecloth paper, like as far as the width goes, and I'm just using a scissor to chop off the top there. So now we have a perfect little table, but you can see when I put the pie on there, it's like, well, it didn't really need to be a curve, but you can do it that way if you want to. I think it's cute. You just hardly see that there's a curve. Narrowest pieces of the Rainbow Slice Tunnel, and I'm chopping a piece of vellum for each because that's going to be our steam. And it's going to look so cute, you guys. So I'm going to die cut these off screen, just like everything else, to make this a little shorter for you. And I want you to note that the top of the die cut isn't cut out because it's meant really to go off of your card or project. So that's why that didn't cut all the way through. So I'm just taking a pair of scissors and I'm going to just kind of finish cutting that out. Now, I'm going to apologize here because I did not realize that my card was off camera. I did not realize that the top of the card wasn't visible. So my humble apologies for not realizing this. I was sitting down at my desk, and when I'm sitting, I can't see the top of my camera. So unfortunately, you can't see how I'm kind of finagling things because the steam is not quite reaching the top with that narrow piece. And I'm trying to make sure that it's going to fit with both of them so that it does actually go to the top. So again, I'm so sorry that you can't see that, but you will see it shortly. So here, there's pencil marks. So I decided to just flip that table over so that the pencil is on the back. Again, it doesn't really matter the pie is covering it up, but just to make it a little cleaner looking, to those of us that are in the know. So now I'm trying to finagle that pie to see exactly how high I need to have it so that the steam reaches the top. If I would have realized prior to cutting the steam, I would have had extended the top of it a little further so that I didn't have to mess with it so much because that skinny piece just barely makes it to the top. And I really didn't want the pie to be any higher on the card. And also, I should have adhered the fatter piece of the steam before the skinny piece, but it's all good. Sometimes we work backwards, but it all works out in the end. So I'm just going to adhere that pie down now that I have my steam in place. And of course, I want to make sure that the steam is kind of coming off of the pie rather than there being a gap. So now you're going to finally be able to see what I'm talking about. There's a little bit of excess steam from the fatter piece, so I'm folding it over so that I can adhere it to the back so that it stays in place. Because vellum is super tricky to adhere without seeing the adhesive. Even if you're using actual vellum adhesive, it usually shows. And if not immediately, in like a week or so, it's like, oh, that doesn't look so good. So being able to adhere it on the back is really helpful. And now I am, although you can't see it, I'm trying to trim that edge a little bit just to make it a little bit rounder. It was a little too straight. It looked weird. Again, just because I'm using it as steam as opposed to how it was originally intended, which was that rainbow slice tunnel. But it's fun to be able to use these things in different ways, right? So I cut out the pie that is part of the Perfect Pies die set, and I used the same blue that I used for the blueberries and the actual pie interior. And what's really cool about that pie word is that the tittle for the I is actually attached to the P, so you don't have to worry about losing it. And then I grabbed the Perfect Pie sentiments and fillings. I don't know if this is still available. It's not on the Spellbinders website, but if I can find it somewhere, I will totally link it below. I grabbed my Twilight ink and the Hello Cutie sentiment, and I'm using the same cardstock that I used for my table, that nice ivory with the flecking. And I'm just going to stamp that. I have a teeny tiny block that I'm using, and I'm stamping that down. Twilight is such a great ink color. If you don't have it, I highly, highly recommend it. So I chopped that down, adhered all of those pieces to that background, and we're almost done. I decided that I wanted to kind of tone down that white. It was just too vibrant. If I were to make this card again, I would consider using an ivory card base instead of white, but I just pulled out the vintage photo and gave it a toasty look. I made sure to not have it evenly inked. There's inking around the entire edge, but some areas are darker than others, just so that it really does look kind of toasty. Just fixing a couple more spots here, and now we're ready to adhere that panel to our mini slimline card base. I think this came out so cute, and I can't wait to show you guys other ideas that I have for this rainbow slice tunnel. This was the first thing that came into my head, and I needed to get it made before I did anything else so that I wouldn't forget it. But I'll be sure to have other ideas to share with you really soon. The table was a little meh. It was kind of boring and bland and too much of a gap there. So I'm trying to figure out what to do. I have those excess blueberries that I had cut out, and I decided to add a couple of blueberries to that table and cut out another of the same leaves that I had used for behind the pie. So after playing with the arrangement a little bit, I decided that I was going to put everything on the left side, and that's it. I'm going to zoom out so that you could see the whole card. How cute is that? I think it's adorable. Again, my apologies for having some things off camera. Working on a slim line kind of threw me off as opposed to an A2 because it's so much taller than an A2, but you got the gist of it, and I think it came out really, really cute. So let me know what you think of this little card and what you think of this new collection from Spellbinders. It's fantastic. I've already shared a couple of things from it on my blog, so make sure you check those out, and I will be sure to have more coming up very soon. I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Be well, stay safe, peace out.